The Biden administration, they are going to be unveiling its immigration reform legislation in Congress sometime this week. We are finally going to get to see what it is. It is called the United States Citizenship Act of 2021. It is going to be introduced publicly in the House or in the Senate before the end of the week, most likely on Thursday, but it could be pushed back to Friday. The effort to push the legislation through both houses of Congress is being led by Senator Bob Menendez and Representative Linda Sanchez. There's two huge bills that Biden wants to pass in the first 100 days, and that is COVID relief, and that is immigration relief. Now, the legislation is going to mirror some of the executive actions that Biden signed in his first weeks in office. The executive orders are legally binding. They are published in the Federal Register. Executive actions, however, are more symbolic efforts to enact change in immigration law. Now, Biden signed a record number during both the time period, but from the time he has been elected, some of which include edicts on immigration. One of his actions called on Congress, an edict is just, I want this to happen. One of his actions called on Congress to grant permanent status to Dreamers as part of the Obama-era Deferred Action for Childhood Arrival programs, which Donald Trump challenged in court. Now, according to published reports, we are going to know exactly what the DREAM Act is going to be part of in this U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021. As the reports are coming out of Washington right now, what they are saying is that if you are a child and you entered the United States under the age of 17, all you have to do is prove you were physically here before the age of 17 and before January 1st, 2017, or 4 years from the date of enactment, whichever is going to be later. So it's going to actually be some date beyond January 1st, 2017. It's going to be a date in 2017 that you had to be physically here, and it's going to be you had to be here under the age of 17. If you qualify, meaning that you graduate high school or are on your way to graduate high school and do 2 years in the military, 2 years in college, you are going to be eligible to adjust your status to get a green card. If you're not at the age yet to do the 2 years of military or college, or you have to re-enroll to do your college or your GED, you would get a conditional green card until you satisfy all of those requirements. All of the bills that I believe could possibly pass, I believe the DREAM Act will definitely pass. Why? Because I would find it really hard to believe that the Democrats will not let it pass. They have majorities in both the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate, with Kamala Harris being the tiebreaker. It has bipartisan support. Lindsey Graham, who is a staunch supporter of Donald Trump, has co-sponsored the DREAM Act for 2021. So we know there will be Republican support for it as well. What I believe will happen is that there will be pieces of this bill broken off, voted on separately as separate legislations. Some of the legislation will pass bipartisan, such as the DREAM Act. Other parts may require what's called reconciliation, which is where you only need 51 people, 51 senators to pass the bill. It's all based going to be on the Senate side, not the House side. The House, the Democrats have the numbers. So we'll see what happens with the rest. For example, there's going to be in the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021 a proposal that will include an earned pathway to citizenship for over 10, 11 million people. And I don't even believe it's 10, 11 million people. I think it's probably 40, 50 million people who were physically here on January 1st, 2021. Now that date, that's the date that is being published. We'll see what the date is. There's going to be a cutoff date. That is the date that's being published in the news. Again, when they unveil the actual legislation, we'll see what that date is on Thursday or Friday. If they keep that January 1st, 2021 date, or they move it to a different date. And just because, as I've said before, they say it's going to be January 1st, 2021, meaning anyone out of status here on January 1st, 2021 would be able to ultimately get some sort of conditional status and an amnesty, and then 5 years later apply for adjustment of status to a green card holder. We'll see what the date actually ends up being. As part of the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021, I was just speaking to one of my clients who filed for their married children. She's a U.S. citizen, filed for her married children, wants to know why it's so long. Well, they only give 20,000 green cards out a year, whatever it may be, something around there, that number, to married children of U.S. citizens. And there's obviously hundreds and hundreds of thousands of married children of U.S. citizens waiting for a green card. As part of the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021, they're going to speed up those cases, because right now it's a 15-year wait. How fast will they speed it up? We don't know. What will they have to give back to anti-immigration forces to speed up those cases? Maybe it'll be the end of that category for those who haven't filed. So I think that people, especially in family-based cases where it's married children of U.S. citizens and perhaps brothers and sisters, if you ever wanted to file for your family member who is married or a brother or sister, do it now, because you'll probably be included in the new laws, especially brothers and sisters abroad, married children abroad. You may not be able to do it after the laws pass. We'll see what the laws are. They say there's 11 million undocumented aliens, Yo-Yo and Vanessa, in the United States. And I have to say something to you. Since the year 2000, I've heard the same freaking number, 11 million. It's been 11 million since 2000, really? 2001, 2002, there was 11 million. 2005, there was 11 million. 2010, there was 11 million. 2015, the number was 11 million undocumented aliens. And now in 2021, it's still 11 million undocumented aliens. Which leads one to say, we find it very difficult to believe that nobody came or left in the last 21 years. All right, it's been the same 11 million people. Very bizarre. And I'll be frank with you also. My office, since 2020, has seen over 100,000 clients. Most of them undocumented, but not all, but most undocumented. I find it hard to believe that I saw 1% of the undocumented population in the entire United States. So it would lead me to believe that number is severely undercounted. And they're probably undercounting it because if they told the American public we're going to give amnesty to 50, 60 million people, which is possible, there would be an uproar. I would say the number's closer to 50. No one knows what the number is. I believe, and I have no idea, just it's my own Uncle Brad sense. I think the number's closer to 30, 40, 50 million than it is 11 million people.
Yeah. That makes sense.
But I don't know. But we're going to know a lot more on Thursday or Friday, so please keep listening. Maybe even tomorrow they will present to the public what the legislation is before they present it to Congress. We don't know. But in the next 24, 48, 72 hours, we're going to know finally exactly what is in the Biden amnesty for 2021. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching. For more Brad Show Live, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.